So with just one side, that's basically half. See if I can get this where you can see. That's basically half of a 13-gallon kitchen trash bag. I still have the other side left to go. My rule for, well, how do you know what animals get and what they don't? You'll notice as I'm harvesting these that the branches will stand up every time I cut something off. And when they just get to be too hard for me to reach, whatever's left is up for the animals. More than one way to skin a cat. This one weighs is that 6 or 8? 6.48 pounds. 2.88. Another thing that you can do with berries or grapes is you can dehydrate them. If you dehydrate them, you can then turn them into a powder and use it in ice creams or smoothies or however you want to do. Now, I've got this set out this way for a specific reason. I've got a Nesco FD80, which is a square dehydrator, and you can kind of see how big the gaps are with just the standard trays. So they make these screen trays that have a much smaller hole in them, and the berries won't fall through that. Now, they also make a thing that's called a fruit roll-up screen, which is basically just flat plastic. It's actually round, so it's really made for the round dehydrators, but it actually fits the Nesco FD80, which is square. The one thing I want to warn you about is if you're going to use fruit roll-up trays, make sure these are closest to the heat source. So I would prefer to have these. I've got enough for all of my trays. I just couldn't find them. So I ran across these. I'm like, I've done it with these before. And that's what I'm going to do. So basically what you do, I'm restacking these trays in the order I want them in. So this is the top, so it'll be in reverse order. This is the top, and then the one that's up here will be the bottom one. You see, this is the bottom, so I'm just taking them off in the order I want them in. When I get down to one tray, I'm going to add the elderberries to this. It's very important that the elderberries are not like double stacked, so you want them to be a single layer. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. Adding these berries. This really takes a lot of time to get these on here right. The only reason why that you want them to be a single layer, if you double stack them or they get 2 or 3 tall, what's going to happen is it's going to take way longer for them to dehydrate. So basically I just take a fork and spread them around. You just keep doing this till you have your trays full. Alright, so here's the trick for getting a single layer. All you have to do is take a fork and just go around your tray and tap it with a fork or a spoon or any of that. If there's 2 on top of each other, it basically forces them apart to where they sink down. Now I don't necessarily do it just absolutely perfect, but it's not like there's not any of them that have like more than 2. So you really want it to be as small as possible. Once you've got that done, You put the top on. Plug in your dehydrator. Now I'm going to tell you about mine. Unless you have this exact same dehydrator and setup, it's, you know, every dehydrator is going to be different. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set this to about 145 degrees, which is already where it was set. Make sure of that. Yep. So about 145 to 148. Now, here's the problem. It's going to take 15 to 20 hours for the number of trays that I have. Could even take longer. If you have less trays or you have a way more powerful dehydrator, it might take less time for you. That's kind of what I was saying. Every dehydrator is different. But I know in my experience, for me to dehydrate 8 trays, each tray has about 1 pound of berries on it. Maybe even a slightly more than 1 pound. It's going to take 15 to 20 hours. So basically it's set up. Once you get this done, I'll bring you back, or once this is done, I'll bring you back to the next step. Now another way you can store elderberries, which I do sometimes also, is you can just freeze them. You can either take and flash freeze them, so you basically take a cookie sheet, lay them out, you know, as close to a single layer as you can on a cookie sheet, stick them in the freezer. Once they freeze on there, you remove them from the cookie sheet, put them in Ziploc freezer bags, and refreeze them. So that's another way to do it. And outside of that, making jellies and jams, that's my 3 main ways. I make jellies and jams with elderberries. I make ice cream with elderberries. I dehydrate elderberries to use in other recipes, or I freeze elderberries. I'll bring you back at the next step. Checking these to see if they're done. These have been in here about 23 hours. And they still feel like they got some moisture in them. So I'm going to rotate the trays again and let them go until morning. So basically I'm just going to reverse these. The top will be on the bottom. The bottom will be on the top. And sometimes I take and just kind of like pull the center out. So it's basically just trying to keep them to where they're all getting an even amount. And you can pretty much tell by the way they feel. If they kind of feel rubbery, they're still not done. Which is exactly how they felt just now. And we'll check again in the morning. That'll be 36 hours. And now it's been about 48 hours, but I know that it's done because it was almost done when I left for work this morning. So easy way to tell if it's done. It's crunchy. Take this off so you can get a little bit closer look. The texture. So now I got to get it in a jar, sealed up with an oxygen or a moisture absorber. So removing the berries from the tray, I usually just use a cookie sheet. You could use parchment paper or similar. And it's just a process of they will stick to the tray. But what I do is I just rub my hand over it and they'll start to fall down. And this is about the easiest way I found to do it. And you just keep going until they're all done. Then you package them. into plastic bags as whole dried berries, or you can go ahead and grind them. When you grind them, you could use a clean coffee grinder. You can use a blender, whatever you've got that will grind it up into a powder. I usually go with about the consistency somewhere between salt and pepper, and then you use it in recipes. One thing you got to be aware of, it still has the toxins in it dehydrated. However, some people will be affected by that and other people will not be affected by that. So basically what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to still go ahead and cook these before you eat them. But I use it in ice cream just fine. You'll know because the first onset of toxicity, or you have the sensitivity to toxicity, is you'll start to get an upset stomach. So you need to keep the amount small until you know whether or not it affects you or not. And then if it don't affect you, you can just eat the powdered in recipes without, recipes that don't require to be cooked, like ice cream or something like that. I'll put the amounts up, the equivalents, because a small amount of berries, there's 30 berries in a pinch. So you could very easily eat a lot of these and not realize you're eating a lot. But I'll put the dosage up for the ground berries and how you can use it in recipes. So here we can see that our 10 pounds of elderberries dehydrates down into this. That's 10 trays. That would have taken 10 1-gallon freezer Ziploc bags as fresh berries to be frozen. It would have taken, I have to convert that into grams. So that's 4,500 and some grams. Would have made, divide that by 5, that's 8, 9. Would have made 9 times 4. Would have made 36 pints of jam. And I'm going to see how many Ziploc bags it takes now. Actually, if you grind this into powder, it takes up less space, but I'm going to leave it like this just because that's the way I prefer it. That way I can use whole berries or rehydrate them and use them in ice cream and that sort of thing. But I'll show you how much space it takes now, and this is why people dehydrate. So this is our 1-gallon Ziploc freezer bag. It took less than a 1-gallon Ziploc freezer bag to hold 10 pounds of dehydrated elderberries. And like I said, if this was actually ground up and turned into a powder, it would reduce that probably by about half. So that's a good reason why to dehydrate. Takes up way less space. If I would have stuck the 10 trays into Ziploc bags, each tray is about 1 gallon. And that's a whole lot of freezer space. Now I've got this. This can be stored in a cupboard. I'll put a one of the packets in there that absorbs moisture, and these will store for a long time. I've actually had peppers that I've stored, that I dehydrated and stored without the moisture packet, and I've used them 5 or 6 years later. Matter of fact, dried herbs that you buy at the store is basically just ground up. They don't have moisture packets in them. So there you go. That's how you dehydrate elderberries and how to save way less space.